Alrighty guys, what's going on? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be updating my MCU ranking and including all of the movies and projects associated with Phase 4 up through the holiday special. Now that Phase 4 is over, I just figured I would add them to the list and just kind of talk about each of the projects a little bit. So let's go ahead and start it off. So first up, WandaVision. This is going right to the top for me. This show was so captivating at first. I will admit that I do think that the show kind of fell off at the end, especially with the finale. But I think that overall, throughout week to week, just watching this was such an enjoyable time to watch week to week. It was so mysterious. The atmosphere of what was actually happening was fantastic. The character evolution for Wanda I thought was great. The introduction of Agatha Harkness and Monica Rambeau also just fantastic. And while I think, like I said, I do think that the finale had its problems, it's not kind of gonna weigh down my overall enjoyment of the show, and I still really enjoyed it. I do wish, however, the effects of WandaVision were more talked about in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, but I'll talk about that more when we get to Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this. This kind of was a very good show to watch, and very much what Marvel needed to do in a time where we couldn't go to the movies. So I really enjoyed this show, and it's going right to the top. I will organize them better here at the end once I kind of get all of them on the board. I'll kind of organize them in the order in which they place alongside the other movies. But moving on, we have Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think this one for me is going to go into flawed. No, I think it's enjoyable. I think that overall the show itself is enjoyable. It's only the Flag Smashers that I have a real problem with. I think that the Flag Smashers were severely underdeveloped. They did not get that much screen time, especially Carly. Her storyline felt rushed, and it felt like there were pieces and parts missing that they have cut, and overall just was not a great villain. I wish they would have kept it as Joan Walker as the villain. I think that having kind of an evil Captain America for these two to go up against was a better move maybe, but yeah, I'm also not a big fan of Sharon being the power broker, but I guess we'll see what happens with that. It's only her second or third MCU appearance anyway, so maybe they'll do something cool with her being the power broker and whatnot. But it just was one of my it kind of just left me wondering what they're gonna do. Zemo, hope he returns, and yeah, I just think that the show overall, with dealing with real world problems alongside kind of the superhero problems, I think it did a really good job. And yeah, I originally had it in flawed in my head, but I do think it is enjoyable at the end of the day. Next up, we have Loki. I think Loki is also going to go into enjoyable for me. I'm not that big of a Loki fan. I think that Loki is an interesting character, but I do think that when the show first got announced, I was like, well, then what's the point of killing him off in Infinity War? It didn't really make sense to me. I do hope that they use this in season 2, hopefully to better evolve King Dynasty when that comes out. I really hope that we get a parallel between this version of Loki and the MCU's Thor, and seeing just kind of having a reversal of what happens in Infinity War, where we see Loki deal with Thor's death instead. I think that would be really interesting. I do think that King will have to kill off a big player in order to establish himself as a bigger threat than Thanos, and honestly, it's got to be Thor, I think. So yeah, I do think that will happen in Kang Dynasty. So hopefully, fingers crossed, my theory is right. But I think the show overall is really enjoyable. We do get our first appearance of Kang, and I think that all of that was really cool. The show, it's aesthetically pleasing. I think that the aesthetic for the show is really nice and very different for the MCU. Of course, you gotta love Owen Wilson. And it's really interesting that it brings up it just introduces a lot of interesting concepts. I think the show is really enjoyable. However, it also just kind of feels like it runs its course a little too much. By the end, it kind of feels like it's all over the place. So yeah, I think that's more of an accurate statement in that I feel like it's kind of all over the place by the time it ends. So yeah, I do enjoy this show, and I'm excited to see what they do in season two. But yeah, maybe I'll just have to go back and rewatch it. But for now, this is gonna be an enjoyable for me. Next up, we have Black Widow. This is a flawed movie. It's not flawed as in bad. It's just incredibly mid. It is one of, if not the most mid MCU movie there is. Another we got another spy thriller, which should have been really interesting, but it's just very run of the mill kind of generic Marvel. You know, there's nothing really special about it. There's nothing too big that happens in it. I do think that this movie came out a couple years too late. I would have liked to have seen this maybe in Captain Marvel's spot, in the release dates. After Infinity War, but before Endgame, that would have made her death in Endgame maybe a little bit more meaningful. I do think that maybe that's part of the reason I have a problem with this movie is that it came out at the wrong time. I think, and definitely was not the way that you should have, like, definitely not the big theatrical release they should have had for Phase Four at the start. So, I mean, the movie's fine. It's an enjoyable time. I've only seen it once and don't really care to revisit it. I'll probably have to revisit it before Thunderbolts comes out, but overall, it's fine. It's nothing too special, and yeah, it's. I mean, it's pretty much what you expect from a Black Widow movie, but I kind of maybe expected a little bit more. But yeah, it's very generic in my opinion. What If is an instant flop for me. This show, I just couldn't. There was something about it that it just didn't resonate with me. I only really liked like the Doctor Strange episode. That was really it for me. I was not a big fan of the rest of the show. I thought it was really. I think my main problem with the show is that they have all of these unique ideas that they have the liberty of making, right? Like they're such better ideas than just character swaps, especially in a medium such as especially in a medium like animation. You can do whatever you want, right? But they chose to just have character swaps, and I think that that's incredibly kind of lazy and just it was not very good, you know. They also just tried to tie them in at the end, to try to tie all these storylines into one another, and while it worked, it just wasn't the big kind of thing that I think they wanted it to be. um, so yeah, this is easily one of the worst projects of Phase Four in my opinion. I'm not really looking forward to season two if they continue to do sort of the same just character swaps that they've been doing. Like I really really enjoyed the Doctor Strange episode. I don't want to fully just hate on this project. I think that the show that one Doctor Strange episode was really really good, but overall just the rest of the show just did not captivate me. Shang-Chi, I'm going to put this at the very top of great. Um, I think that Shang-Chi is fantastic through and through. I've seen it. It's probably up there with the amount of rewatches that I've done of this movie, in Phase 4, I should say. But Shang-Chi is a fantastic origin story. I really, really enjoy it. It connects to the larger MCU in a way that nobody really knows yet, but it's probably going to be Kang related. Um, and well, it connected to She-Hulk too, so that's awesome. And yeah, I really enjoyed this show, or this movie I should say, for what it was. It was a really good origin story, had a lot of great action, and introduced a awesome character to the MCU. And I really hope that the director who did Shang-Chi, is directing, I believe, Secret Wars. So hopefully we'll get a lot more hand to hand combat than kind of just the shooty lasers that we've kind of come to expect with some of these MCU movies. But Shang-Chi had a lot of great hand to hand combat, and I hope that the director uses that to further enhance what we see in Secret Wars. So that I'm really excited to see what he does with Secret Wars. So yeah, I really enjoyed Shang-Chi. Thought it was awesome. Next up, we have Eternals. I'm gonna put Eternals in enjoyable. I don't really get the hate for this movie. I thought it was really good. It is a little long, I will admit. But overall, I really enjoyed the story that was told. The cinematography is fantastic, probably the best in the MCU. Um, and yeah, I don't really understand the hate for this movie. It's a lot of characters that I feel like it was maybe just because it was information overload, right? For Marvel, we've come to expect kind of a sense of familiarity with these movies. It's like, oh, this character's new, but he's interacting with Iron Man or it's Captain America or something. But with this movie, it was an all new cast, not a single reference. I mean, there was MCU references, but not a single character to kind of like attach on to kind of help connect everything else. So I think that maybe is where the hate for this movie comes from. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Um, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they do in the sequel. I think the sequel has a better story potential than the first one, and I really hope that they do in Eternals too. And yeah, I really enjoyed the movie, and I would like to see more from the Eternals. Hawkeye, I want to enjoy Hawkeye. I'm gonna put it in enjoyable. Hawkeye, it felt very generic. The trailers and stuff, the promotional art made it look so awesome. It looked like it was going to be a really fun kind of Christmas adventure, and I still think it really is. It's still really enjoyable at the end of the day, but I do admit that I was a little bit underwhelmed, and it kind of suffers from the mystery box villain thing that they do nowadays with these shows, where it's like they don't introduce the actual villain until the second to last episode. WandaVision suffers from this as well, but it's not to such a degree as Hawkeye, because with Hawkeye, they didn't even mention the name Kingpin until the episode before the finale. So, yeah, I was not a fan of that. I really wish that they kind of introduced Kingpin earlier on. There's even a cut deleted scene with Kingpin in it talking to a young Echo that was just cut. That would have been incredible for character development and just was absolutely cut just because they wanted to keep the reveal of Kingpin till the very last episode for some reason. So I'm excited to see Kingpin return for Echo and for Daredevil Born Again. But yeah, I will admit the rest of the show I think is fantastic. I really enjoyed the introduction of Kate Bishop. Jeremy Renner is really good as Hawkeye once again. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with the show, but I will admit I think it was kind of the kind of like just the Kingpin thing just kind of ruins it for me a little bit. And yeah, so I really enjoyed the show though, and it's going to enjoyable. If you know me, you know where this is going. It's number one. This is my new favorite MCU movie of all time. I did not really expect this to beat out Infinity War, but I just absolutely love this movie. What it does for Spider Man as a character in the MCU, it propels him forward in a great direction. And I really hope that the rumors and stuff about Zendaya coming back for Spider Man 4, being the love interest yet again, I really hope that's not true. Not because I love Zendaya's MJ, but it just feels like Peter is in this new territory and does not like you can introduce MJ in Spider-Man 5, right? Reintroduce MJ in Spider-Man 5, but let Peter kind of deal with the ramifications of No Way Home for at least a movie, you know. Let him get the symbiote in Secret Wars or Kang Dynasty, and then let him come back and deal with the effects of that in Spider-Man 5. It's just like they have this great setup, and it feels like they're maybe gonna miss the mark with what they've set up. And I think this is the best. This is the best Spider-Man movie in my opinion for what it does in this universe for Peter as a character. I think is just fantastic. They set him up, like I said, in a very kind of comic book esque Spider-Man fashion to move forward in this universe. And I think that that's what everybody's kind of been wondering is they wanted him away from the kind of techie side of Spider-Man and wants him to kind of, his suit is homemade and, he's doing things on his own now. Nobody knows who he is. And I really like that. I also really hope that they keep that for these Avengers movies. Like he should not tell the Avengers who he is going forward, I want him to kind of keep his identity kind of close to his chest. And I feel like if they introduce or reintroduce some of the same characters, it's going to have less of an impact. So, yeah, I really enjoyed like I said, No Way Home I think is close to perfect. There's everybody's kind of complained about the cinematography, and I think that while it is pretty stagnant, it's still it gets the job done, and it's awesome. I think that this movie overall, for what it does for Tom Holland Spider Man as well as the past two Spider Man, I think it's awesome. It kind of gives everybody a nice little bow for Toby and Andrew, and propels Tom in a great direction. And I think that this is easily the best MCU movie in my opinion. Moon Knight. I have a love hate relationship with Moon Knight. For a comic book adaptation, it is a flop. Like, it is a terrible comic book adaptation of the character. But as taking it for what it is, and kind of what they do for the character, I'm gonna put it in enjoyable. I think Oscar Isaac is fantastic as Mark Spector and as Steven, but I think overall the story for what it is pretty good. It's a little kind of generic-y, yet again, but I think that they do it in a stylistic way that makes it unique, and I think that that's awesome. I really liked this show at the start. It kind of got a little too mystical for Moon Knight for me towards the end, but I still really really enjoyed it. But like I said, if this was a like based off of like comic book adaptations, this is going in flop. This is one of the worst comic book adaptations of a comic book to live action, in my opinion. It just does a complete disservice to a lot of the characters, especially our main character. And like I said, it works for the MCU, and I think that that's great. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do with Moon Knight in the future. But it in the back of my mind, it's always going to be like, oh, it's not really, you know, not that I really care about comic book accuracy, but it's like when you look at it at face value, it's like, oh, this is based off of a comic that has like it does nothing like the comics, and I think that it works for some movies, but also just for this one specifically, they kind of get a lot of it wrong. Um, so yeah, I do find Moon Knight enjoyable though, and I really maybe I just need to go back and rewatch it again. I don't know. I think that for now it's going into enjoyable. Hopefully, they do something cool with him again in the future. It kind of feels like he was kind of off in his little own bubble, and I hope that he appears in a crossover of some sort. So we'll see. Werewolf by Night, I think, is great. I think that this was a nice. This is what Disney Plus MCU should be. None of these other shows on Disney Plus needed to be shows. They needed to be 40-minute specials, hour and a half specials, and that's it. We did not need, like, I feel like Moon Knight would have been way better as an hour and a half little mini movie. The only MCU project that's on Disney Plus that I feel like benefited from the 9-episode structure was WandaVision. And other than that, the rest of them could have easily have been an hour and a half movies and been a million times better. So I really applaud what they did with Werewolf by Night. I thought it was really creative and really awesome, and I had a lot of fun watching it. And yeah, they introduced Man Thing, which I think will be a very integral part to this upcoming multiverse saga stuff, because he's the keeper of the Nexus being or whatnot. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they do with Werewolf by Night in the future as well. So I really enjoyed this special. It's a nice little Halloween kind of vibe, and I think it's really, really good. Next up, we have Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. I'm kind of teetering between enjoyable and great for this one. I'm going to put it in great. I think this does wonders for Steven's character, even though it kind of propels him in a similar direction to where he's been before. I still think that the message for Steven is really nice. The kind of, why do I have to be the one who has to hold the knife, basically. I think that that's a really nice, kind of message for Steven. I think that that's really good. Going back to WandaVision, I do wish that the ramifications of the end of WandaVision were more explored in this movie, considering Wanda's the villain. But, oh well. I do think it's unfortunate that Wanda is dead. I don't think she's fully dead. I don't think she actually died, but it's like, the movie didn't really have to do a fake out death, So, I do applaud this movie for a lot of things. I'm glad that, Wong is in it. He's fantastic as always. I think America Chavez is another great addition to the MCU. yeah, I really enjoyed kind of seeing these multiversal versions of these characters that we both know from the MCU and know from other universes as well, with, Professor X and Black Bolt and Reed Richards and stuff. I think that that was really cool. I know a lot of people were complaining that, oh, there wasn't enough like cameos and whatnot, but I think that the cameos in this movie did what they needed to do, and that was Marvel kind of saying, hey, look at this, we have access to these characters now. With, they were kind of flexing a little bit, and that's really all they needed to do. I'm glad this movie was not a cameo fest. And I really liked that a couple of the villains were like evil Doctor Stranges, because it really kind of hits the nail on the head for that message of, why do I have to be the one that carries the knife? And it kind of shows what happens if he does it too much. So I really enjoyed this movie. I do think it's maybe even better than the first Doctor Strange, but yeah, I do. I did really, really enjoy this movie. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, easily going into great. This movie is fantastic and one of the most heart wrenching MCU movies. I am. I mean, there's not enough words I can say about this movie. It's fantastic. Namor, especially, one of the best MCU villains right off the bat, right out of the gate. I thought Namor was fantastic. Shuri as the Black Panther. I wasn't really necessarily on board with it at first, but I think that Shuri's going to be a fantastic Black Panther. And yeah, I just really, overall, just really enjoyed the story. I thought the story was maybe going to be a little bit of a mess since they had to rewrite it after the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was really, really awesome. M'Baku had some of the best like lines in the whole movie. Angela Bassett just won a Golden Globe yesterday for this movie, and might I say, well deserved. She is fantastic in this movie, and gives one of the best performances of the year last year, in my opinion. So, really, really love this movie. It is awesome. Miss Marvel, I'm gonna put it in enjoyable. It's really enjoyable. Um, it has its moments. I really, really, really liked the first episode. The first episode for a lot of these Disney Plus shows really has a great way of grasping the audience, but it's just the rest of the shows that kind of fall off towards the end. But I really, really like Miss Marvel through and through, up until maybe the last episode. The last episode felt a little too cheesy for me. Or the episode where they're kind of like running through the high school. I think that's the last episode. It felt a little too cartoony for me. Especially since the episode was before was about like some heavy hitting topics, So I really enjoyed Miss Marvel for what it was. I'm excited to see what happens with her and in the Marvels. Um, but yeah, I really liked Miss Marvel. But like I said, it was kind of the end that kind of just wasn't as good as the first episode. The first episode, I think, is the best episode of the series. So yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder, flop. This movie, the more I think about it, the more I hate it. Oh my, like, this movie was such a disappointment. And that's unfortunate to say, because I thought after Ragnarok we were really going to get back on track with Thor, and especially after Infinity War I thought we were going to get back on track with Thor. I really like what they did with Thor in Endgame, and then to kind of go off of that and come right back to this, it's like they didn't even really think about it too much. They just were like, yeah, let's do another Thor movie. Um, Chris Hemsworth is very, very bad comedically in this movie, which is unfortunate because we've seen him be comedic in movies like Ragnarok, but it's just he is just not that funny in this movie. The Guardians feel a little bit out of place in this movie. They're not written as well. Um, Gore, they wasted Christian Bale. He's severely underused. He's not in the movie a whole lot. Um, we don't really. He's known as Gore the God Butcher, but we don't see him butcher any gods. We see Thor kill more gods than we see Gore do. Natalie Portman, I'm glad they brought her back, but they might as well not have. Jane Foster was I think Jane Foster was maybe the highlight of this movie, but still, it was a very, just not a good storyline for her. I do like the ending though, where it's like Thor convinces Gore to choose love in the end, not wipe out all the gods, but the movie feels like a parody of itself. It looks like a parody of itself. They use the volume, which is stuff they used for Mandalorian and Star Wars, but it's like they didn't use it correctly. Every shot looks green screened, and it's blatantly obvious when it is green screened. Um, yeah, this movie for me was just a big disappointment. I thought I was trying to convince myself after I saw it that I liked it, but it is just a big disappointment, and it's very unfortunate because now before this movie came out, Chris Hemsworth was like, yeah, I'll do Thor for as long as they let me, and now he's like, well, I kind of want Thor to end. You know, he's like, it's kind of over. Like he goes back and forth because the character writing for this character is so inconsistent, and it's very unfortunate because he's a standout in Infinity War and in Endgame, and then just to go from those two, to go from three, even including Ragnarok, to this movie was a big disappointment, and I, I do not like this movie. I think it's very bad. I Am Groot. It's fine. They're just funny little shorts. I'm gonna put it in enjoyable. There's nothing really standouty about it. My favorite episode is the one where he like terrorizes this colony of like little bugs and they start shooting him and then he steps on them at the end. I thought that one was pretty funny, but I don't really have much to say about it other than it's enjoyable. It's not really meant to be taken seriously. So, yeah. Speaking of which, She-Hulk. I think She-Hulk is the best MCU show. I know that that's maybe an unpopular opinion. Well, it's second best after WandaVision. I still think WandaVision is my favorite, but I think She-Hulk was really good. It was just what I feel like I personally needed from the MCU. I was getting a little tired of the kind of big multiversal stakes. This was just a fun little 30-minute comedy show. I really, really enjoyed it. Brought back Daredevil. Fantastic. Loved those two episodes. And those are probably, I think everybody can agree, those are the best two episodes of the series. And I had a lot of fun. I thought She-Hulk was really great. Tackled a lot of, kind of online troll problems that, it kind of made fun of them. And I thought that was funny because it got them even more outraged. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with She-Hulk. And while it did kind of feel a little cartoony at times, it was like that overall. And, I think that the consistency is nice compared to like Ms. Marvel, where it felt kind of cartoony at the end, whereas it didn't really fit towards the rest of the show. So I really enjoyed She-Hulk. I think through and through, it is fantastic. I don't get the hate for this either. I thought it was really good. And then last but not least, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and I'm going to put it in great as well. I thought this was nice. This was just a cute little holiday special. Really, really enjoyed it. Kevin Bacon is great in this. He's probably the standout of this whole thing. I really enjoyed that they kind of gave Mantis and Drax kind of two Guardians that have been off to the side for a little bit. I'm glad that they gave them the spotlight, especially Mantis. Man, if this is telling of anything, Mantis and Guardians 3 is going to be fantastic. We can definitely see a lot of emotion coming from Mantis, especially after this, and I'm really, really excited to see what they do going forward. Guardians 3 is going to hit hard. It's going to be rough. So, we have completed the tier list, and now let's go ahead and kind of reorganize the ranking. I feel like WandaVision is at the perfect spot, so I'm not going to move it. I feel like my top, however many this is in the perfect order. So, actually, I lied. I'm going to move Homecoming over one. So, yeah, now I feel like it's in a perfect order. So, now, let's see. Shang-Chi being at the top of great, I'm going to keep. Let's see. Doctor Strange, I feel like I'm going to move it there. Really enjoyed it. She-Hulk, I think it's the best Disney Plus show. Don't necessarily think it's the best. Like, I don't think it beats out any of this. Wakanda Forever beats out the first Black Panther, in my opinion. I feel like this is good. I'm going to move the Guardians Holiday Special. I'm going to move it here. Yeah, that feels right. So yeah, I think that that's great as well. That really fits what I think. Eternals, putting that there. Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to go below these. Miss Marvel is going to move to here. Yeah, I think that works for me too. This works for me as well. And then, while I don't think Thor: Love and Thunder is the worst MCU project, I'm going to go ahead and give that back to Incredible Hulk. It does really make me upset the more I think about it. So I'm going to place it below What If. So for now, this is my updated MCU ranking. If I have any major changes, I might do another video. But for now, this is the ranking as it stands as of 2023. And yeah, I'll come back and do another updated list after Phase 5 ends, which at the top of my head, I don't know which project ends Phase 5. I think it might be an Avengers movie. I don't know for sure. It might be Secret Wars, but I don't know that for sure. So I'll do this video again once Phase 5 ends. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think about my ranking, and let me know your rankings in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.